wrec can create two-way bindings between form control values and component properties. Form controls that have values include input, text area, and select elements. Let's create a component that demonstrates this. This code can be found in the form-controls directory. To create this project from scratch, create a new directory named form-controls, cd to it, create a package.json file by entering npm init-y, install the wrec library by entering npm install wrec, then create a form-controls.ts file shown here. The component has the properties color, size, and story. Their configuration objects specify their runtime type and initial value. The static CSS property produces the layout and styling shown in the browser window. The static HTML property specifies the HTML elements to render, including text area, input, and select elements. The input element has a type attribute set to range, which causes it to render a slider. Note the JavaScript expressions that are just property references in the CSS for p elements, the text area element content, the input element value attribute, and the select element value attribute. When the user changes the value of one of the form controls, the reference property is updated. For example, changing the input value changes the size property, which is used in the font size CSS property of p elements. Wrec remembers the location of each of these expressions and the properties they use. When the value of a property used in an expression changes, the expression is recomputed and all affected locations are updated. These targeted DOM updates are far more efficient than complete re-renders or strategies like a virtual DOM. By default, wrec updates the property specified in an input element value attribute when it receives a change event, which happens when focus leaves the input or when the user presses the return key. To instead have wrec update the property on every value change, such as dragging the slider in an input with type equal range, we added :input after the value attribute name. Next, create the index.html file shown here. This just loads the component definition and renders an instance of it. Install Vite by entering npm install -D Vite. Edit package.json and add the script dev that runs the command vite. Start a local file server by entering npm run dev. Browse localhost :5173. Change the story text, size, slider, and color dropdown, and notice that the p element updates automatically. For input elements with type equal checkbox, the checked attribute can be set to a reference to a Boolean property. That creates a two-way binding where clicking the checkbox updates the property and changing the property updates the checkbox. You'll see an example of this in the parent-child bindings video. For input elements with type equal radio, the checked attribute can be set to a reference to a string property. That creates a two-way binding where clicking the radio button sets the property to the value of the value attribute, and changing the property updates the checked value based on whether the property value matches the value of the value attribute. You've seen how wrec greatly simplifies creating web components that render form controls and use their values by removing the need to write event handling code. In the next video, we explore how wrec supports two-way bindings between parent and child components.